Do you hear that? Would you lend me some coins, please? The In All Honesty podcast needs you to continue running. I will deeply appreciate support from you. You can send monetary contributions to my Mpesa +254 728 171 059 via PayPal at OLAVEORAWO. That is OLAVEORAWO. You can support the podcast indirectly by buying merchandise and services I offer listed on my WhatsApp catalog. My WhatsApp number is +254 728 171 059. Did you think I'd forget? Advertise with the In All Honesty podcast. Hit me up to talk about it. You can do that via WhatsApp +254 728 171 059 or via email OLAVEORAWO@gmail.com, or you can also DM me on socials at OLAVEORAWO. You know, the hand that gives will receive an episode every week. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm in what was once a dream. So if I do some quick math, the future equals a dream come true. Since 1992, In All Honesty, a podcast by OLAVEORAWO. Hi, hello, welcome to another episode of the In All Honesty podcast. My fabulous name is OLAVEORAWO, and we are recording this episode at the Trio Media Studios in Lavington, Chandarana Building, Nairobi, Kenya. So I'm telling you, I'm reaching out to podcasters. If you're starting out in the scene, please come to Trio Media. It's very friendly to your pocket, and that's why I encourage it. And it's a very cozy space. You will love it. Tell them Shori for In All Honesty told you. But here at In All Honesty today, we are discussing parenting boys versus girls. Parenting is a difficult thing. And today I'm with two parents in the building, very good-looking parents. There has been a thing that parents don't look like parents these days. Mbona hamkai mama zetu? Anyway. I know Akinyi. I just knew you. I'll not say met you. I know Akinyi just recently from TikTok. I saw you at the match, and then my FYP started bringing you. Right. And I was like, wameacha kuchukua data peke yake sasa wana read minds. But anyway, and I've known Jones since campus. He's been my friend. And I'll just let you guys introduce yourselves as you'd like to be known.
Thank you, Olive. My name is Diana Akinyi Michael. I'm a mom of one, single mom. Yeah. I have a 9-year-old girl. Yes. I'm a child development specialist or a parenting coach, stroke therapist. Yes, that's my profession. So apart from being a parent, parenting is something I'm passionate about, and I do for a living. Yes. So I mainly focus on teaching parents about emotional intelligence.
Okay. Yes. Where I feel like your child is so lucky. I'm just I flashed back to my childhood and I'm like, it's not fair. But yes, Jones.
Our intro is more child-oriented than mine, Yani. Hey, you are ready for this. I am Jones. Yeah. Jones Ngani. I am a father of two. Married. One is almost turning 7 in a few weeks, and the other just turned 2 a few weeks ago. Yes.
Boy, girl.
Both are boys. Both I call them minions because
they're all doing the most.
They're doing the most. They're always crazy, the two of them. It's hard to differentiate their age. But I do work-wise, I think that's on the side, but that's project management. But as a father, kids don't know what you work.
True.
They wouldn't want to. They probably figure it out later when they're older, unless you take them to the office. But as of now, they just want to know what you bring to the house. So.
That's true. Okay, so today we are discussing parenting girls versus boys. So I knew Jones had a son and I knew you had a daughter. And I basically would just like to know our experiences growing up, if we had siblings of the opposite sex, how that looked like. And right now I've seen a lot on social media, people being like, I do this for boys, I do this for girls. And also we are in the age of equity, equality. You don't know how that presents itself as a parent when you're parenting kids. So that's the discussion we're having today. But usually I start with some of the responses that I've gotten from social media, because I send out prompts on Wednesdays. From now on, it will be Wednesdays. This time I changed the dates, and then I only got very few responses. So I'm going to read some of them out, and then I had some guide questions, and then we're just going to go through the discussions. Give me your real-time feedback. If you have background story about something that you've had here that you relate to, then let's just talk about it. So the first person here says, boys get away with high treason because boys being boys, in quotes, while girls get crucified for sighing. Just, you cannot. Yes. You as a boy.
Yes. Me as a boy. With two boys.
Yeah. Okay. Let me start with growing up. Do you have siblings of the opposite sex?
No, actually, we are all
You're girls.
We're all girls. I'm the firstborn.
Yeah.
I have 3 sisters who follow me.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you have a daughter.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful family.
It's been very female oriented.
Okay. And
I'm lucky my dad.
I have an elder sister and a younger brother.
You have an elder sister?
Yes, unfortunately.
I've only heard of your younger brother.
She gets the best of me at times. But she's there. I love her.
Okay, so are there any differences for you between the way you and your bro and your sister were raised?
Yeah, first, my sister was the eldest. So she was always daddy's girl. We would stay out past 8, 9. And my younger brother was younger than my sister, but he would stay out longer than her. Yeah, our reactions would be, for men, now that I'm older, I understand that the repercussions for us are different for women. For us, she's possibly fertile from ages 13 all the way. Then for us, we're just still childish as much as possible. You'd be 13 thinking like an 11-year-old, and all of our actions are just physical. You want to fight, you want to run, you want to play out. It's just discovering. And for me, how I grew up, it was like you're given time to go discover what you want to do, not given direction. But for her, she was more told to not do this or not do that, which is a bit unfair, I guess, because you're just given restrictions on what you're not to do. But for us, it's run free, do what you want to do.
And do you feel like she served? Do you feel like she served you people, especially as a firstborn?
No.
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't. My sister, my dad had this thing I think most African parents do, and if it wasn't for her, you would have been dead, something like that. I don't know if your parents tell you that. She instilled on her.
Oh, so she's been... Wait, who's...
She paved the way for you guys.
Yes. Paved the way for you guys.
I've had a couple of clients I've worked with before say something similar. I think African parents operate from the same script. So there's that. I get what you're trying to ask him. If she served them, that's one aspect of it. Then there's another aspect where you're not serving, but you're given an authority over the rest of the siblings to the point where it creates a rift. So you're like, is this my sister or the deputy parent?
Deputy parent is a word that exists that just rubs me the wrong way completely. But anyway, I grew up in a family of like one boy, so it wasn't very evident. He's also way older than me, but we had different boys we had cousins, we had men around. What I used to see, what you'd see in our house is that my mom didn't care who is who. Girls, boys, you all did work. So maybe some things would go to your strength. Me, I know I'm baby girl. I cannot touch that for shit. So I will not be in the gardening. But that task could go to anyone. So when it came to work and chores, everyone was supposed to do their work. their relatives would host from shags would just be like, uko tunafanywa madharau, because I think in shags, men are not supposed to do dishes, mop the house. So in our house, chores are chores. It goes to anyone who's available for that chore. But something else I saw is that my mom was very adamant on us serving the men. We were supposed to be serving them. I remember my bro was allowed to go anywhere and do whatever. And then I'm supposed to cook food. And then a hot basket was bought. At the time, there was no microwave. You know, a basket that has is insulated inside and has a pillow you cover. That one was put in his room. So this man who's going to do whatever, you're supposed to make sure you've cooked and then you've put his food in his hot basket in his room. He'll come back at whatever time and eat. And then leave his dishes there. You come and pick them in the morning and go and wash them. I was just like... At the time, it was just a normal function. I wake up, I know I'm supposed to go to this room and pick the ninis. But now looking back, I'm just like, what was that? He was a capable man with 2 feet and two hands. Yeah. So me, that was...
How old was he?
He's
years older.
He could be maybe 8 years older than me. So he could be 40 now. Okay. Yeah. He's older. And that happened for like other people. I see my father is not the kind who likes to be served. But my mom, I think them growing up, they were told, as a woman, you're supposed to serve. So sometimes she's insisting on things, even when my dad is just like, but no, you can bring the water here. So maybe for them, they were supposed to serve, but me, maybe those were the differences I saw. But just everyone doing their chores was... I
think it's different. Like, if your father wanted to serve himself, that works for him, because some men actually like cooking and they would handle that. And they're not comfortable possibly out in the garage. But then my father would be served. But it didn't prevent him from going to the kitchen. Yes.
I guess different families are set up differently. But anyway, we'll get to that discussion.
So just to cut short, I think I love what you've said about you were raised according to the strengths that the children were showing in the home. And I think that's something that a lot of parents miss out on. When we have our kids, we're already trying to mold them into societal standards.
Yeah.
I have a sister who can't cook to save her life, but her other strength is in cleaning, and she does it perfectly.
So well, yeah.
So you find if we had a brother and he could cook, and the sister is the one who can clean but can't cook, a good parent is one who leans on the strength of the child, not molding the child to fit societal. So, unajua haujui kupika bwanako atakula nini, and you can see it's your son who's capable of doing it. So I feel like parents really miss out on that, on not focusing on the strengths that the child is already showing.
And actually, even just noting the strengths. Sometimes we don't even care to see, wait, mtoto, wapi do they take an inclination to?
Well, that needs time. Spending a lot more time with your child. Than like the current society, what we're able to give to them is different.
That's true.
What I learned is like you can love your child in 2 ways. Either you provide time for them, you provide money for them. If you try and do both at the same time, there's one that will always give. So you can either be there during the day, the entire day, or go out and look for money for you so that you're able to live comfortably.
It's a delicate balance. Oh yeah. At Melanin says we were raised same, save for the clear cut difference in food portion and timing. At what time should who come home? To date, 6 p.m. is my curfew. So I guess she's a girl, so for her, 6 p.m. I guess for
all girls.
For girls, yes, generally, because of how the world was set up. Food portion. Do we genuinely believe boys eat more than girls?
I think at a point until high school as well, women can shock you, or girls can shock you in terms of portion.
They shock you.
When they go for fast time, makirudi, and you're like, hey, eating like your brother. But before that, I think portions are there.
So biologically, boys eat more. We believe that.
We have more muscle.
Yes.
Okay.
Developmentally.
Yeah.
There seems to... There differences are there, between boys and girls. But now when it comes to making them feel unequal, for me, I feel like that's where the problem is. There's no problem acknowledging that my son is a certain way, my daughter is a certain way. But when you're trying to create a hierarchy, you know, my son is a bit soup. And that's something that's common with African moms. Yeah. Emotional incest with their sons.
Hey, I have it here. It's point number.
Yeah. What? Emotional what?
It's
with your son. Okay.
Yes, it's true. So what was that? Food. So me, I grew up in a house full of girls, but I think the bullying, even me, I used to bully my sister because the thing was, you're eating like a boy. So that you need to like
reduce.
Even if you're going to make fun of someone, I think you'll have to be careful about how you are saying it, because nakula kama mwanaume is not a joke. It's sort of, it's a statement that might rub you the wrong way. So maybe those are some of the things, because there are times even my sister would tell me in our adulthood, she'd be like, I didn't want to stay there because it felt like food was limited. And those are things you now feel like she feels like she needs to limit herself because of they'll judge how much you're eating, when eating should just be eating. For girls or boys, your children, you all need to eat. There's a girl who has more appetite, there's a boy who has less appetite. Right. So yeah, I guess we learn as we go. So hey, okay, so those are the ones I got, but then now I have like talking points. One was inspired by your video the other day. You were talking about boarding schools.
Right.
You are for boarding. You want boarding.
No, I was
okay.
completely against
I was actually saying how much they are a scam.
Yes. So for boarding schools, what we can start with what our experiences were if we ever went to boarding school, and what were the differences between probably girl boarding schools and boy boarding schools. For me, something that was, I think to date still doesn't settle right with me. You know, they'll tell you if you grow up, you'll get to a point where you understand how some things used to work. But I'm just like, the beating of girls on their ass, to date, I still don't see how that works. And then for our boys' schools, me, I'll just say names, come and sue me.
Are you in a military school?
Oh,
you're beaten.
We used to see many schools, people are beaten on their ass.
Boys are.
You went to a public school?
Yes.
Yeah.
You went to
I was in a public, somewhere public, but in primary, yes. It was a church-run public school.
And you?
I went to a church-run private school in primary, then a public school in high school.
High school.
Yeah. The private in primary was a mixed boarding. So we were with both boys and girls. Yeah. So my experience, there were different experiences between the two boarding schools, but the caning was always there.
So it was both boys and girls?
Yes.
Okay.
And just what you're saying, we also used to be hit on our bums.
Yeah.
It's not nice.
No, I don't mean, because us in primary, I was in a private school in primary, we weren't getting beaten. It was banned at some point. And then when I got to high school, the first time I had to be punished, the teacher was like, now all of you turn. And I was like, for a girl who first has never been punished by the dad, this was wild to me, because first of all, this is a male teacher. So I remember that just never settled with me. I was like, hit me, slap me on the face. I don't know, that to me was just wild. But then when I heard what the boys across the fence were going through, because we were in a girls' school and then boys are on the other side, the boys, they had teachers who used to tell them, pump up your chest, and then they punch. So you'll hear a sound, poof.
Must be a school
and
in
I was
Boston,
just, both these corporal punishments are not okay with me. What? Yeah, so I'm just like,
for me, I was in boarding from class 7.
Yeah.
It was mixed boarding primary and also mixed boarding. I was in a private school in high school. But I know the reaction between men and women, for boys and girls, is for men, for boys, it builds resilience. Like life is hard, you need to be able to take it. But for women, it'll become emotional. Very emotional. Like you'll take it as trauma, it'll affect your emotional side. Or
even you guys, it's trauma, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but then you build it. You see, as men, the way I tell story to a man and to a woman, it's very different. I'll be very sympathetic. But for men, I'm empathizing. I'll be like, hey, wait, sawa pole, but you need to be stronger than this. It's different. Take your chest, there'll be harder things coming to you for whatever school that was.
Yeah.
But for men, you go out and chap a story like, do you see how Oliver lichapwa jana? Then you start laughing about
like,
it.
I'm thinking something like beating someone's chest. That could be detrimental to your health. This is not.
I hope it doesn't happen now.
Punishment.
It's not
does.
it still happens.
The reason she's talking about the video I talked about on TikTok, it's there was a story on Monday about a certain lady who went to see her brother. Then they were not allowed to visit. Then they had to insist, and finally when they were let in, they discovered her brother had been punched by a certain teacher to the point where he was like visibly injured. And when he was asked, the excuse he gave was, the boy made me angry. Yeah. And so for me, I understand what you're trying to say, but at the end of the day, you may think you're building resilience, but it's making a lot of men very carrying deep trauma that translates to avoidance. Because when you're hit, because these teachers are not treating the boys like children, because up until 18 you're still a child. Yeah. Just a big baby, but you're still a child. And I'm not
gonna fight you. When you're a teacher punishing me, I'll take it. There's no need of hitting me like I'm fighting you. There's
a level of sort of destroying your esteem that does to you, that you don't realize until you're in the outside world. Why do you think it's so easy for men to just burst out and kill someone when you're rejected? It's coming from these places where you're lashing out that trauma onto someone who is lesser, you perceive to be lesser than you. Inatoka shule, so many people are attesting their parents or their first bullies, followed by teachers. And it's the education system we're in. How do you punch? It's like you're fighting with your fellow man.
You are not taught how to articulate and how you are treated in a situation where you are supposed to articulate why you are wrong. Is how you'll treat people now in the future. When you can't tell a girl, udanikata, unaamua kumpiga, because that's how problems have been solved for you in the past. So it needs to change, guys.
But that's for corporal punishment only. I think there are other ways of punishing someone. It should be, my view in punishment would be, it should teach a lesson, not just inflict pain. So pain bit is questionable how you want to do it, but the lesson should still be there.
Right. Yeah. And I'd go further to say, why do we engineer lessons when we make mistakes? Lessons are already there to be learned.
Oh yeah, true. Because the mistake came from the mistake is a lesson.
Yeah.
You wanted to give an example?
Yeah. For example, if a child breaks a cup, it's a mistake, right? Yeah. And the lesson they pick from that is next time they're supposed to be careful. When an adult does it, it's a mistake. Oops, I'll be careful next time. But we hit children for
you hit children.
We hit children for that, to teach them the lesson. But it's already there. The child has learnt the lesson. So why do we go a step further to punish someone with the belief that until I make them feel a certain way, that's the only way they can learn?
See, at some point, the child is your friend, and at some point, you are the parent. For example, you have a child. 4 years ago, they're difficult to sleep. Like, it gets to 8 or 9 o'clock, they're supposed to sleep. They don't want to sleep. But at 5 a.m., they still have to wake up, or 6 a.m. to go to school. They don't want to. You do it Monday to Thursday. By Friday, you're hungry. And the next week, it's the same thing. So you have to instill the message with some form of punishment.
How?
Nachapa kidogo. That works. Because this is a whole 12-week term. He still has to go to school week 1, 6, 8, all the way. They can't be late every day and they won't learn. My son comes Monday, sleep late. Tuesday, Wednesday, the sleep is accumulated, so he'll sleep early at 7. At times he might not eat. But then Thursday is back to sleeping late. And still in the morning, he would be really groggy. He'll want to go back to sleep. And it will affect his learning. So if he doesn't want to sleep, you have to threaten in a way and he'll still go to sleep.
Have you been curious to understand what is causing the lateness?
Yes. His younger brother is not sleeping at the same time with him. But his younger brother sleeps during the day several times. So there's a disparity in the two. But then he still has to sleep because he has things to do in the following morning. His younger brother would wake up at 10, 11. And explaining that your younger brother still is sleeping late because he slept during the day, it's hard. He just wants equality. So at some point, you have to tell him it's not equal because he slept during the day. You might not have been there. You don't know if it happened, but he slept during the day. Yeah, so you still have to do it.
So where I'm getting at is already he's not sleeping. There's consequence for that, right?
Yes.
Why does another consequence need to be added to teach him a lesson? I'll give an example. My daughter sleeps late. She misses her bus and then she'll be late in school, which will cause punishment there. Why should I prevent her from experiencing that consequence?
Because it's better from home. You teach them at home because you're preventing the lesson coming from you and transferring it to the school.
There is already a lesson to be learned. When I sleep late, even as an adult, when I sleep late, I'll wake up late. I'll probably get late to the office, which will make me get reprimanded by my boss. And I'll learn from that. And if I do it constantly and I don't learn, there's going to be another consequence. So I feel like parents sometimes usually prevent our children from learning the consequence of experiencing the consequence of the action that happens.
The punishment is still, right now, for example, if my child is late, I'll have to take them to school. It's still inconveniencing for me. I still have
Thank you for saying that. Now it's the lack of your patience that is causing you to hit him because it's an inconvenience for you. You know, but so you're hitting him so that he can be, how will I put it? He can, there's a word. You can mold him to suit your needs. And again, if you don't sleep early, you're going to inconvenience going to work on time. Yes. Yeah. Instead of, this child is learning. Something also I have a problem with parents sometimes. We don't teach kids. We expect them to come knowing, you're supposed to sleep on this at this and this time, without teaching until it becomes second to nature with them. You get. So you've already discovered part of the reason that he's not being able to sleep on time. It's because of his brother. And it's coming from a place of genuineness. I'm seeing my brother also getting this time to stay awake. Why is it not happening for me? So instead of looking for other solutions to solve, because that's what's causing the lateness issue for him not to sleep well. Instead of looking for other solutions to solve that, now you put it upon your child to figure out how he needs to sleep when his brother is awake, and then now he's not able to sleep. And then he faces the consequence. So sometimes I feel like you need to guide your child in a way where you are navigating also their surroundings and their environment. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Can the smaller brother suffer for the big one? Can the smaller brother be?
He can go sleep at the same time at 8, but he'll be up at 2 or 3. So it's still inconveniencing for us. He can't be wake up at 2. At the end of the day, you still have to go to work. But then even in, you're talking about repetition. Kids learn from repetition. Same way, like in IT, we have 2FA, two-factor authentication. Like you will put your password and then there'll be an OTP that comes to your phone. So you'll learn the lesson about being late in school, but then you also have to instill it to them that itakuchapa because you are sleeping late. They learn both ways. Today, tomorrow, the following day. Eventually, they'll get to a point where in, let's say, class 5 or 7, grade 7, they'll be able to wake up by themselves because you've already taught them at a young age. That's how it will work.
And I understand what you're trying to say. For me, my point is there can be positive reinforcement without having to instill pain so that a child can learn. Because I feel like a lot of us growing up in the African home, we've been taught things through fear. And that's why you find society seems to be wayward, because you create compliance.
Yeah.
A child will do because I'm afraid mom will behave this way. But you've not created character out of that child. You've not created the habit of going to bed early because this is beneficial for me. You've created fear. If I don't sleep, that is going to hit me.
Or they cannot, what is it? Critical thinking.
Yes, you're not. Yes, you're not nurturing critical thinking skills. So finding ways you can create positive reinforcement for this child, so that the next time when they are doing something that they need to do, they're doing it because they feel like it's beneficial for them. They've gone to bed early today. They've slept well. Affirm them for that. Even create a system where if they go to bed early, they get
there's credits.
Yes, there's credits for that.
Let me tell you, Akinyi, that is how we are going to build mediocrity if you do that. If we affirm everything that a child does, that'll be a self-aggrandizement. Mami melala mapema leo, give me something. In the end, you'll build a very mediocre society if we keep affirming them for small wins. Just talk to them, it's fine. But rewarding such things won't work.
There's difference between praise for small milestones and constantly trying to boost your child's ego for no reason. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that this person has, your child you've seen they're struggling with, and finally you can see them maneuvering it. I don't think it makes someone become mediocre or decide that they can't do better things for themselves. I feel like the more you praise them, the more I realize I have capabilities within me to do this thing again.
And the more you praise, depends. What would you praise for? There should be instances. I'm trying to get an example. So for my situation, what would I do? Like, I always congratulate him when he wakes up early by himself. It rarely happens, but I feel happy about it.
And it's not empty praise.
It
will be as simple as, I can say you've woken up early today. You've done better than last time. So not good job, no. Or good boy, no. Because also that creates a people pleaser in your child. Because they know only when I do what mommy or daddy wants,
they're fishing for now that validation.
So they'll always only do things that
they can get praised for.
I do read parenting books, and there's a point where they say you are a parent until they're 11 or 12, and then there you become their friend. Yes. So at this point, where does parenting stop and you become a friend? Like, I can do the cultivation bit, I can cultivate the culture, the knowledge into things, but there's a point where I would understand that this is not what I want him to be. If I keep praising obvious things that I've been doing when he was 5 and 6, then where is the growth in him? Yeah.
For me, this is what I'll say. Parenting, especially when you're instilling values in a child, there's a lot of imitation that needs to happen. For example, when you're telling your child, stop screaming at your brother, they won't learn if you're screaming at him as well. Yes. So the calmness needs to start from you. And your child is going to learn because they are watching, not because you're telling. Children don't learn because you tell them. They learn because you're constantly doing that. And so when you say there's a place where you're teaching and then now you become friends, it's basically requires your child to learn imitation from you. So the things that you require your child to do, if you're not seeing them, that means you're also not doing them. So they're not imitating it from you.
Yeah, that's true. I don't sleep early, but everything else I'll do. And I can't sleep early. I can't sleep at 7:30 or 8. At times I'm not even at the house. But then it comes back to how you're able to love your child. You either have time for them and do things in their time, or you're able to provide money for them, which you have to go to work to provide it. So you can't come at 7, or I say I'll be home by 5 so that you can sleep at 8 or 9, and then Tuwezi kula supu ya mapera. This is Nairobi.
Right. I hear you.
Supu ya mapera Simba. Sorry. But anyway, I wanted to ask you a question, but I think it's related to the next point. The way you're treating your boy right now, let's say with the lateness, if you had a daughter, do you think you'd have done the same? But let me build up now on that point. Now, there was a whole, the sprinkle, whatever that has been going around. I think I've mentioned this in a previous podcast. There's just been women who are like, we get this from men, we get this from men. Men are an ATM machine. We get money from men. Men should not be broke. There's this notion. And then I saw a different side of that argument when I was on Facebook. And now there were women in the comments and they were saying, I was of this mentality until I realized I'm raising a boy and I don't want someone to do what I'm doing to men to my boy. So it is at that point that they start realizing that there's a fear for, I'm treating Jones. If it were my son, I only want someone treating them like that. So then where the difference between this, how we parent girls versus the society we currently live in, or rather how we are living our lives as a woman, as a man, is it contradictory to what we are raising our daughters and sons to be? Yeah. We can start with you if it were a daughter.
If I had a daughter?
Yeah. Have you ever thought about it?
Oh, unfortunately, I don't know, because I find girls harder to grow than boys, because I understand what happened to me, or I understand how they're feeling. It's easier to understand a boy because I've been one. But for a girl, I just feel like I'd be a protective father. Like 6 o'clock would be there. I'm just checking where they are, making them comfortable, treating them like a child, even though they've shown progress and growth. I know that'll be my limitation.
You think you'd have been more on your toes if you had a daughter then?
Specifically to her. Yes.
Okay.
Because unfortunately for men, they'll break an arm. The growth process for boys would be they'll break a hand and then it'll get fixed, something like that. But for girls, they can get pregnant, and that's every father's fear. Like, they'll be pregnant and then now my child is also a mother. Now I have to be a grandfather soon. But
that's way later in life. Now there's the formative years when you're still raising a daughter, when you're saying you're a parent to a child.
Girls have more threats than boys. Yeah. You see, watch the news, kids being raped, always there. But the incidents for men, if they exist, 1 or 2, or they're not reported as much as girls. You see? So for mine would be a childhood. For boys, it happens. They'll be stolen and you'll find a body wherever you find it. But for girls, they'll be alive, but then they'll have long-term trauma. Okay. So maybe Akinyi is the one who's more experienced in this.
I'm thinking a little bit differently, and in terms of, especially in this day and age where you hear a lot of people say the boy child is forgotten, I think it's in instances like this. We tend to believe that a boy is just a boy. His arm will break.
He'll be fine.
He'll be okay.
Yeah.
But in assumptions like that, that's where the boy is easily forgotten. We forget that he's also a human who processes emotions. He also needs to be listened to. He also needs to be seen. He also needs to be understood. And we are just like, boys will just go out there and it will be okay. We have boys nowadays who are being sodomized by house helps.
True.
It happens. Boys can go outside there, still as long as they are still a child, anything can happen to them. So for me, I feel like if I'd have a child who is a boy, I'd still put emphasis on both of my children. It gets to a point where the differences start becoming clear. And it's true that if I was a single mother who had a son, there are things as he develops into a man I can't be able to give him that only a fellow man can teach him. So, and up until that point, children are to be treated this. For me, I feel like children should be treated the same, instill the same kind of values. And also to answer what you've said about the sprinkle era. For me, I feel like that advice, in as much as yes, it's serving women to an extent.
Yeah,
it's also rooted in Shira being avoidant. I feel like we are seeing, in this day and age, we are seeing the rise of avoidant women than before. And it's because of, a lot of hurt that is happening.
And we're not going to deal with our traumas.
Yes.
We'll just match the energy.
Yes, match the energy, match the energy, and everyone is trying to look for a way where they're not getting hurt. How can I get the most benefits with the least input? So for men, that is, I'm going to give the money, but my time and my emotions, as long as I've worked so hard to get the cash that I've worked for, and in the past the girls were rejecting me, now I'll pick whoever I want, but I'll pick 1, 2, 3 and more. So he's getting the most benefits with the most beautiful women, but his time and his emotions zimekuwa kwa lock. And for the women, it's, I'll give you my goodies, I'll give you my time, but you're not getting my emotions as well. I'll eat your money, So it's just become a time where everyone is avoidant. Everyone is trying to one up the other with I care less.
Oh yeah.
I care less, I'm staying dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if I instill those kind of values in my children, my son is going to get the short end of the stick, and I'm also not helping my daughter because she's not learning to be self-sufficient. For me, I feel if we could go further and discuss how it's rooted in lack mentality, because if you're only focusing on I can only get abundance if a man is giving me all these things, then it's rooted in that. And there are values as a parent you want to teach your child that will differ from another parent. But overall, I feel like if you're instilling values in a daughter, they should be the same values that you're instilling in a son, until they get to a developmental stage that they're becoming very different from each other. Because I believe society will treat a man very differently when he's processing his emotions, as opposed to how a woman is processing her emotions. And that's where his father will come in, who is also a healthy man who has dealt with his emotions. He's open to being able to process them in a healthy way, that a man should. I believe, I don't know who I was listening to, some coach who was talking about how men tend to deal with depression through activities, not depression, they build their self-esteem through activities that involve them solving hard things. So like the more I solve a problem, then it reinforces the belief that I'm capable, which is a bit different for how women do it. And so until it gets to that point, then the children should be taught the same values regardless of whether they are female.
I'm not fighting that. I'm totally for it. I just feel like as men, we talk less. So what I provide for my boys also, and even should be provided, would be a means of them being able to express their emotions, which they can do to their mother. If it's to me, it's fine. I don't know how well to handle it. Should be better placed at it. And even for you, you're better placed at handling emotions, whether it's from your boy or a girl. But for men, we would listen to it. We'd always have like a physical response. We need to go, like, I have to go fight the other boy or let's protect them. We are protectionists in a way. You guys have time to listen. Us will want to act on it. And that's different. So if all children growing up the same way just have a way of, or a means of expressing the emotions, a free space for them, it would work.
Okay. Maybe just to ask you, when you mentioned that it's a bit different for you when maybe your son wants to come to you with something, you wouldn't know how to handle it. Would you say it's coming from a place where you've also not been shown with the person ahead of you?
Yeah, possibly. I haven't shown that. Not that I couldn't express to my parents, but it's not something that I found easy to express.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you grew up in a culture where that was permitted and that was made okay,
then I would be better. That's what I'm saying. Find an avenue for them to express, which I'm doing also for them. It's fine. And I have identified it's a hindrance for my bit. I can't process the emotions well. So that's why I like you allocate it to someone else. I will listen to it, I'll be on it, but I can't give the best solution to how to handle it emotionally. Yeah. Because I wasn't at that space.
And that's why for me I feel like it's also more of a generational thing that needs to be worked through. Because if the person ahead of me didn't show me that he can sit down and listen to me, I won't know how to do it to my own sons.
And props to millennials. Millennials are breaking the cycle. And it's so difficult. Like, you never saw it, but you're trying to do it. And it's not like even you yourself, you know how to process those emotions yourself. But you have to do it for another human. So you're stepping in the gap. And even while you were talking, it was you. It was you who was saying how we were told boys should behave. It's very contradictory for me. Both of you have said 2 points that are very contradicting but are true in our society, that boys are supposed to be strong and macho and nothing can break you. But it is these same boys that are described as, he's less mature than you. Boys take 4 years before they can match up to a girl of the same age. How are these two things the same and true for one person? How can I be grown and protective and everything and still not be mature enough to protect you?
And that's why I'm saying sometimes we get into society finding scripts that are already there that need to be demystified, because who said boys should be a certain way? And I also find it very jarring that we categorize all men into one certain way of processing emotions.
True.
There's someone who's all thoughts. I'm focusing on solutions to things. Well, there's someone who'll want to ruminate on how they're feeling for a bit and then tackle the issue at hand. And that's why I'm saying it's something that there's room for improvement and learning, because you're also married to a woman, right?
Yeah.
When she's processing her emotions, you don't necessarily kick in wanting to provide
a solution.
And even couples are taught in premarital counseling. Sometimes when a woman comes to her husband with issues, because the male psychology is geared towards action and wanting to solve, sometimes ask your wife, do you want me to listen or do you want me to give a solution? And that's the same that's the same psychology you can use with your kids. Sometimes your sons will or your daughter will come and they're like, Mom, this and this happened in school. And I ask my child, so unataka nikusikize ama unataka nikusaidie kusolve kitu yenye umeniambia? Nisikize tu, leo nataka tu kuongea. And then when you're done, when you listen, it's one and done. And so I think also the problem that comes in is, as a parent, you want to solve. Even if you're a mom, sometimes you just want to solve, and that's not what your child needs.
I think we are downplaying the role that hormones have in all of this. As much as someone would be a girl child, and even for boys, boys have more testosterone than any girl. So in anything, the reaction would be always either fight or flight between those two. But women can either freeze there and listen to whatever situation is happening. So even as you grow older, I would have more testosterone as compared to my wife. There are different hormones there. So the solutions that the hormones give are way different. Yeah, for me, for her, she would take time to listen and find a solution, while I would bust in and find a different solution. And in any situation for that should also be factored in. So you would ask your child, do you want me to listen? But me, I will listen and want to do something about it immediately, or just brush it off if it's not important to me at that point. I'll say, sawa pole nimesikia, but if there's no task to it, if there's no end for it, if it's just a small thing, I wouldn't, again, this comes to me, I wouldn't like notice that it's an emotional thing that's happening to him. So maybe the mother would understand better that this is how he's been impacted emotionally, because she has like a myriad of emotions more than me.
Right. Yes. Thank you for saying that, because it brings in another important aspect I'm forgetting. We tend to be single-minded if you're alone, but teamwork is important in parenting, because there's something the mom is going to bring in that the dad doesn't have, and the dad is going to bring in that the mom doesn't have. And so sometimes you miss those cues where your son is trying to say this and this and this. The mom will pick it up, and you'll have a private conversation later on, and the next time an incident like that happens, you can be able to pick up and, oh yeah, this is what she said, and you recorrect them. Yeah, so teamwork is also important.
Yeah, I get it. As someone who's very logical, I think that's why I struggle so much with, let's say, friendships and relationships, because I feel like if I'm hearing the same thing over and over, why haven't you solved it? I can't hear it the second time. So for me, if you come to me, I've provided a solution, and I don't understand why you haven't taken my solution.
Right. And now you see society thinks that is how men function.
Yeah.
And there's some women who are like that.
Oh, yeah, true.
Have you gotten into MBTI? Myers-Briggs test. It's about personalities.
Oh, that's what it's called. 16 personalities. Yes. I know the name of the test online.
So it's very rare to find a T-type in women, but they're there. Yeah. And T-types tend to be very logical women, as opposed to feelers, F-types. But you'll find also men who are F-types and women who are T-types. So when we group everyone into one bag and say women are not logical, men are logical, then this logical
it's such a struggle, because sometimes when men approach me, men already treat me like how women are supposed to be treated. So men approach you with fear. It might turn into drama. You might cause a scene. You might not want a logical solution. So sometimes there's just a disconnect somewhere where it's just like, oh, you found a solution and you moved on. So it's as if, also, I think I'm struggling with the idea of men feeling like you're too masculine because you're not giving off a female energy. And that is a whole podcast. The idea that female energy is supposed to be damsel in distress.
Right.
Are you complaining in a way?
I am complaining.
So you are T-type, right?
Because if I told you carry this thing for me and take it there, I come back tomorrow, it's not been carried and taken there. I carry it and take it there, and I'm not caught a feeling. It's just fine. You missed it. Why is it a thing? Why is it now? Oh, so you think I didn't do it because it's just logical for me. If you didn't, maybe you didn't find the time. It's okay. I've carried it. But there's a way we've clustered men and women, so it's difficult for people who exist in that frame. I'm a woman, but maybe I'm not an F. So I struggle maybe just navigating relationships with men because they feel, why are you coming on too strong? I'm not coming on too strong. It's just the logical thing to do. And I'm sorry if you relate it to being a male trait. So, yeah.
and that's why I'm saying deal with children at individual basis. Because if you're treated like that from childhood, the parents believing, ay, wasichana ni sawa wakilia, then vijana wasilie, and then you're growing up, you're so confused. You're like, I'm feeling I'm supposed to be this way. But then society is telling me there's a certain way I need to act. Or this F-type boy who's very much comfortable, very much in touch with his emotions. He wants to always speak about things that are happening. And then his parent is telling him, no, boys don't behave like that. Or, this is not what boys do. Then he grows up, he's just confused with how things are happening in society. So for me, I'm very passionate about dealing with your individual child.
Person to person. Generally in life, if I know you, Akinyi, I cannot carry whatever I know about you and now use it to judge Agnes. It's like person to person. It just helps to treat people better, I think. And that brings me to the point. I was talking to my sister-in-law and she said, I told her, now the boy had finished high school. And I was like, like there's no need to take care of a child, it's over. And she was like, now I'm more worried because now he's outside the realm in which I can protect him. I now can't protect him from the world, from what the real world looks like, from other people, from experiences, a girl breaking his heart. So it is only at that point that I realized that as a parent, it gets worse. It's not.
It really does.
So what is your experience with that? Are you feeling more fearful of your girl or boy growing older, or are you feeling it will be more of a relief the older they grow, it will be less to take care of?
I learn to embrace what's happening in the moment for them.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the first one is 6, 7. There are things that I wish he would do when he was young. Like I still remember him doing them. I wish he could do it right now. But he's grown, he can speak and do all those things. So I'm embracing even the young one growing. Like if he does weird things, stupid things, I still enjoy it. Because it won't happen again. But you learn to let go easily. It's grief in its own way. Because you just remember, I could leave him there for a whole hour and he won't move. But right now, it's things happening. Everything in wires is... So you learn to leave it. Whatever happens, happens. It still get hurt. But you learn to embrace and let go of some things. You remember them. You don't forget, but you don't cling on to them.
I love that. I share in the same sentiments.
Yeah.
You deal with the here and now. And I think I'll use us as an example of how we've been raised. You've talked about girls being sheltered because you're scared things will happen to them. And I think that's a huge battle we are having with our dad and trying to let him know he needs to allow things to happen to us and to let us experience the world for what it is. Juu hata ukifungia huo mtoto uko ndani, ona embakasi gasi lipuka. Anything can happen anywhere. So if you're of the belief that nikimwacha atoke kitu itamfanyikia huko, that is their fate, by the way. Why are you preventing me from dying and I was to die in Quickmart? So like I feel like parents need to allow their children, especially when they transition to different stages. Of course, a toddler won't just be let off to do their own thing. They need guidance. Then it gets to pre-teens. Then it's now teens where you're more of a friend and a coach with this child. And then now they're an adult and now you're just friends. Now, when they get to that stage, you need to allow, and hapo ndio palisa wazazi wanakosea. And I feel like at that stage is where now you feel the differences sana between the boys and the girls, because it's like, wewe ukitoka nje nani atakuoa, utaipata bwanaje kama kila, like my dad has sung that thing for us hata tumechoka. If we go to sherehe, you know,
women ni sherehe. My mom believed sitting like this is a loose woman. You are a loose woman. No, not like the way you are seated position, sitting without doing anything. So even if you needed to bask in the sun, unachukua mboga unaenda unadondoa ama unachukua maragwe, like just sitting. Yes.
You know your mom will listen to this. Can she still meet you?
Sawa. Haters ni wengi. So it was just, and you see your bro over there, just ameka anakula hiyo njugu yenye wewe unatoa. In fact unatoa njugu yake atachukua and yake nayo pale kwa stool ya kule tu, he can bask.
And do you know, these are the things that are causing resistance in the current generation.
Yes.
Women have become so resentful of how they were raised, because why is the boy allowed to sit? Mi ndo namuoshea boxer zake.
Imagine.
I always have to be productive and then they are doing nothing. And you're finding now there's an identity crisis with the men.
Yes.
There was servitude 24/7 around them, from their sisters, from their moms. When in their society, they're finding women who are telling them, hey, young man,
changamke.
Me, I'm not doing the things you expect. And so they're left like, hey, okay.
And actually during the episode, you can go back and listen to episode 2, which is the femicide episode. We all the three of us agreed that could be one of the things that we're experiencing femicide about, the shift in society where men were always served only to grow up and realize, oh wait, this is, I'm not supposed to be served. And then there's also the idea of, you are told, get money. It will attract women. It will bring nini. So now you have money and these women are rejecting you. Are you mad? So that's the shift we might be experiencing right now, and it's the loss of blood that we are now seeing as femicide, which is so sad. But
I think like if you just trying to divert to the current education system, the way like CBC is doing is they're trying to empower everyone, boys and girls, to try and be able to take care of themselves. So like cook for yourself, clean for yourself, all those things.
Really good.
So that you're not like the boy is not expectant of the girl to do this for you, and the girl is able to cater for their own needs in life. So that if you're meeting, it's because of mutual friendship, isn't not because of a need. Like I need you to clean my things, and you need me to provide for you. Yeah. So it'll work if it's implemented.
Yeah.
As she said, it's a societal thing, and we just like it evolves as time goes. It's just painstakingly slow, and that's so. Oh, that brings me to the point of dating. When is too early? Should there be a difference between girls and boys? I actually shared a meme just the other day of a girl saying, now my mother is asking me for a boyfriend. Where am I supposed to get one? You told me my whole life never to even see me. Right. So all of a sudden you want grandchildren. You think they fall from heaven. Yeah, so
I just want to get Akinyu's opinion about sexuality first, because dating means you have to pick a gender.
Oh wait, I was even thinking of that, but yeah.
Pardon? Sexuality in terms of if it's okay for your child to be gay, to be a lesbian.
If it's okay, or how do you handle it?
How do I handle it?
I think for girls being a lesbian is more common than for men being gay.
That is something I was concerned about.
Yeah, because I still have that fear, but it's something that has been squashed because I see more girls around my boy. So he plays more with them, like in terms of
you never know.
More friendly, but he has male friends also. Yeah, and the younger one is clearly into girls. Like you will see them walk, and you just see his eyes goes to them. So makes me happy in a way, but I'm still cautious of when they'll get introduced to each other. Yeah.
I think to answer that question, this is, for me, is a personal value or belief that not everyone might ascribe to. I believe that we tend to have children and try to mold them in who we think they should become than just accepting them for who they are, like who they've been brought here to be. You can take them you can socialize them with the people of the opposite sex. You can take them to places where they're interacting. You can do all the right things, but still find your child is coming to you and telling you, I'm attracted to a woman or I'm attracted to a man.
Yeah.
Then what will you do? Are you going to distance yourself from your child because they've told you they're a certain way?
That's actually there's a friend of mine who told me if his son is ever turns out gay, he knows he's failed as a parent. And I didn't know how to address it because it's very new to us. We are the first generation of parents who are thinking my son could be gay, my daughter could be gay. It has never occurred in the history of Africanness. So it's new to us, and props to parents. But I'm thinking also, hey, I feel very uncomfortable speaking about this topic because I have no right to. But I feel like if there's a safe, open space at home, I don't think it's even you who will need to help that child navigate relationships. I believe if I tell you this is how you solve problems, this is how you articulate, these are things that cut across, whether you're talking to your teacher, whether you're talking to your friends, to your romantic partner. So if they know how to talk, they know how, you can't be part of Kukatiana, you can't be part of their first sex experience. So if there's safety at home, this child can just be who they are. And even if they were gay, that's not something you're worried about. You'll just be worried at the same magnitude as if they were not gay. Like, is someone hurting them? That one you'd still be worried, even if it was a girl hurting your son. So
for me, I focus more on teaching them how to love someone instead of who to love.
Yeah.
Because the emotional bit, I don't know. And then you can't pick someone for them. Because that in the old age, it was tribes like Calais needs to get to Calais and things like that. But now that's squashed mostly. For me, if you love someone, if I love you, this is how you should be treated. If you love yourself, you should be treated regardless of the gender. So whomever they choose, Hopefully, it's
it's okay. It's okay.
Hopefully.
We are not judging.
Yeah. And I think for me to the statement you said about that friend who said they would have failed as a parent, then that would mean there's a way to raise a child not to be gay.
Exactly.
But
so
it's
flawed. But how do I tell you as a non-parent? And then also, if you're already believing that, it means, I think the levels of homophobia you're at, I cannot even start to convince you. Like, I don't see where I can carry this conversation from if already you feel gay is the last thing you can be in my... No, they were not a parent yet at the time, so I don't know now.
I think opinions change in times.
You
end up loving your child for who they are.
Yeah.
I really hope so, because millennials have faced like being excommunicated or like being set apart from the family for just your sexuality.
Yeah. I think that goes away in teaching them how they need to react to someone else. Like if you know, like my friend was treated this way for coming out gay, I wouldn't treat them badly. I'm open to both, but you can have hopes. Like the same way your parent would hope you to become a doctor, a lawyer, or whatnot. But if it doesn't turn out that way, you lower down your expectations to, as long as my Olive is okay, it's fine.
As long as they're alive.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hi, let me see here. It was dating and then...
So we've not answered.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've not answered the question.
The age.
With dating, the age.
Oh yeah. Have you guys figured out for your children yet?
You've not thought about it?
No.
Okay, for me, basically, I'll answer not as a parent because I'm also not thinking there. Although I've already been told about certain crushes.
Oh, nice.
Which is a developmental stage.
Yeah.
I feel like it will start with parents being a bit more open with issues to do with sex.
Yes.
And sex ed. You see how our government is so opposed to teaching sex ed in schools. And with children or with teenagers now, when we get to that place, the more you deny teenagers something, their curiosity builds up to the point where that they want to do their own research. And who would be better to teach you about sex than your own parents, than letting your child go to discover things on Pornhub.
Their own.
Because a lot of us, tukisema how we learned what sex is, it's very peculiar, different ways. So that's the first aspect of it. Second, I feel like it will be dependent with how quick your child is growing, and then also the environment you've created. Just as you've said, is it a safe space around the home for your child to have a conversation with you about their curiosity? Can they come and say, hey mom, there's a certain boy who's talking to me in this and this way, and you want to understand what does that mean for you? Because also with dating, it means being able to be accountable for your own actions. If you're with this person, will you be okay dealing with the consequences of being with them? Not even the sex part or anything, the consequences of being with them, regardless of the stage. Because the same way we were dating as teenagers is not the same way you end up dating as an adult.
True.
So I feel like just creating that safe space to let your child have the avenue to ask you. A lot of us were not allowed to ask out. It was a taboo.
Was supposed to be seen and never had.
Unataka aje kijana, as if these feelings within us were not. They are there. They've been put there for a reason. Already, if your body is, when you tukisoma science, when we are told you're going to develop big breasts, your hips are going to enlarge. Then what do you think is going to happen?
And then you were taught that simultaneously being shamed.
Right.
You are told you'll grow boobs because you're a teenager, and then you stepped out and your teacher immediately told you after that class, now you've grown breasts, you think you are
a big girl.
Right.
Oh yeah, I was just chilling.
Right.
Yeah.
So open conversations, realizing that girls starting to develop feelings for boys, or boys starting to like girls, this is something normal. It's going to happen. And when your child is having this curiosity, allow for space of conversation to happen so that you can also see where they're at. If your child tells you, okay, that boy wants us to go on a date, if you facilitate for that to happen, you're very aware what your child is doing. You know, parents are so scared because kwanza how you've not created this avenue for conversation to happen. So your child, you know, your child is doing things behind your back, and because they're doing things behind your back, you don't have the way to gauge what they are doing. So there's a lot of secrecy already behind it. And so also the teenagers become adults who are confused. You're 23, but you're still tiptoeing. You don't even want to tell your mom you have a boyfriend. Then suddenly at 30, you're being asked, hey, who is where? Like, you didn't give me the skills to be able to even know how to express, like talking to people that I want to date. And that can only happen if we are having open conversations with it. But I can also understand that parents are having a difficulty with that because it was not taught to them. It was not
there for them,
So they're having a hard time knowing how to navigate this with their teenage children and their young adults. And
what happens when your girl brings friends home? Like for me, my boys will just tell me to go to the room. So do you leave them with the space there?
I feel like for me, I'd actually be more comfortable with that because you have the avenue to chaperone, you know. You have the avenue to see what is happening, you know, like unaleta aje mwanaume kwa nyumba yako,
unaleta mami yangu ilikuwa rumor. They had a rumor sijui from a friend of a friend, you were seen with a boy walking sijui where
to the stage and back.
I had not even gone. It was someone who looked like me, guys,
and you're ashamed. And you see, that's why at like most of you've gone to a mixed boarding private school, which I also went to a mixed now primary. But if I was to choose how boardings should operate mixed, how I went to primary school.
I think that's wholesome
because you learn how to navigate talking to the boys, the opposite sex. Like school is more bearable because you're thinking about your crush. Aliniongelesha break time, my God.
And then it also improves hygiene for the boys also, because you always see a girl every day, so you have to maintain your hygiene levels. Instead of one day we're going for an outing, you have to clean everything, or you have to steal someone's clothes.
So
meeting people who went to mixed schools, girls, I find them very confident. I look at them and I aspire. I wish I was like that. I wish I could express myself. I wish I could be as free around men. Me, the first time I'm interacting with men was like in campus. I'm just like, if you're not my bro, I don't know what you are. So I found them more wholesome.
She was
and you know, that's where people go berserk. Like, wait, sijai kula chapati maisha yangu yote. Ukinipatia chapati, I'm going to massacre this thing. You know, rather than slowly being oriented to chapati to a point where chapati is there.
And you know, for them, even it made sense. They could see boys. They could see boys and be like, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. For us, the first boy who showed you attention, you are like, okay, this is the one. And I'm just like, I was one of the lucky ones. What if I fell into the hands of these men who you see have just like abused women properly? You know, I was just like, yo.
You've just said that, and I'm now reflecting back on my own life. My sister has also gone to a mixed private school, high school, and how she navigates dating is very, very different from how I have in the past. Because with her, it's like, okay, I'm seeing this person, it's not working out, like we'll go our separate ways. Like there's that abundance of, I'm already used to this, there's more that will come. I know how to talk to guys.
She's not clingy.
Yes, she's not. Yes, she understands. Like she's already used to that system of dating. For me, it's different because in high school I was in a girls' school. So mmefungiwa hata funky, mnaekewa paraffin kwa githeri when you go to a boys' school.
I know.
So that you can
the libido, it's Chukisha's libido.
And because of that level of curiosity, for me, that's when I had my child. I became a teen mom. I gave birth to my daughter when I was 17.
because you didn't know.
Yeah, it's hiyo curiosity. Unafungiwa, you're like, ai kitu yenye nimefungiwa lazima nikajue hii nini. This forbidden fruit. I have to go and find out, and then
you have to find out now in secrecy.
Yes,
now
secrecy. You're not given the pep talk on condoms should be worn like this.
Yeah, safety.
Your safe days should be this way. And these are very easy conversation when you have these conversations with your kids, and they find this with mostly religious parents. They're like, if I talk to this about my child, they're going to start fornicating.
Yeah,
they're not going to fornicate if they have, knowledge is power, as they say. So if I am aware that condoms are used for this and this, my safe days are this and this, I'll create preventative measures when I'm in situations that can allow me to, I can behave a certain way. Yeah. So I feel like communication is not happening.
I'm actually mad that they refused to put condom dispensers in high school. They were just like, you're teaching children bad manners. But you're reporting teenage pregnancies every year. It's okay. They were having sex, whether you want to accept it or not. Just make sure they are safe.
I had a conversation with my younger brother. He's 9 years younger than me, when he was joining high school.
Yeah.
And I was just like, these are condoms, this is how to use them. I had a friend who works at MTRH. He gave me the penile model. I showed him how to use it, because getting to Form 1, Form 2, that's a point where they become less kichongumu too. That's the best way to put it. So you talk to them, you tell them, this is how you're supposed to use it. Just protect yourself and just make sure there are no long-term repercussions. So he's way comfortable with it. There's been nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if he's active. He is possibly, but I know, like, if he wants to have a child, it will be he wants. Yes, because I had a conversation with him. My parents couldn't do it because it's always church. They'll figure it out for themselves. You'll find it out for themselves, or you'll Google about it. But that's not the best way to introduce it.
Right, I agree. And I feel like when you're able to do that, when you're able to have such conversations, because mostly the fear of not wanting to talk to teenagers and young adults about that is being scared that your child might become a teenage parent or a young parent, especially with single mothers. You find, if I gave birth to my child when I was young, there's a fear that might happen itself.
Again.
And so the measure that you introduce to curb that from happening is tightening the reins, which doesn't help, because your child becomes more curious and they want to rebel, because that's the developmental age where that is happening. But to prevent that, if you're having open and honest communication, your child will tell you, hey mom, there's a boy who was doing this and this, and so as a parent you're aware what is coming, what may come next.
Yes.
And you teach your child that this and this are the measures you take, this and this should happen, and also now starting to understand that if this happens, you're responsible for the consequences of your actions. It can create a venue to tell them, if you start having sex, you're also responsible for the consequences that happen as a result.
As a parent, even the older ones, there's also the fear of being vulnerable. For you, like you've talked about how you got your first child, you see. But even like imagine if my old man is to talk to my younger brother about it, there's also some point of vulnerability that they'll have to express, which they're not willing to do.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what makes the conversation hard, because you have to talk about, this is what I did, or this is what you need to do. You can't just direct them. As you said, learning is best by using examples. So if you tell them, I had my first child at 24 because I was careful, 25, and I need you to do the same or be better, then if it doesn't happen that way, then you need to also be vulnerable and say, I did a mistake, I did this. And you're not willing to express our mistakes to our kids.
Oh, yeah, true.
It's always like, I was always number one. I always had A. But that's not true.
After fighting a crocodile to get to school. That also ties into the point where I wanted to know, when do you start having the difficult conversations? I don't know how to say, like, when do they start understanding things? Let's say in the case of a divorce, let's say in the case of a deadbeat dad, for boys and for girls, well, what's the difference, and how Me, I know I can't be a parent for shit.
I know best where do you explain the situation and not explain the person.
But
so
but at
me
what
and you are
stage?
having an argument,
but
you don't say your mother is bad. It's like me and Olive. It's not working out with you in us, but it's like your mother is bad, she's terrible like this. She's still your mother at the end of the day. So when to express it is when things are going very terrible. When you see that it's going to impact how things are running in the house.
It will affect, if you can see it will affect them.
Yes. Okay. So like if your mom is the one who's always coming to school functions, I might also have to come. See, from time to time. Or you might see her every 2 or 3 weeks because that's when she's able to see you, or you're not able to express to her all your emotions. So you need to gather them. In 2 weeks, you're going to see her. So you have this weekend to express to her, but you can call her at any time. So it's more of when you see a situation will change, it's good to try and have the talk with them.
And I don't know what language looks like. I don't know what stage is the right stage. At what point can they understand? It's because I have friends who are single parents, and me, I'm usually telling them, I can't wait for your children to be 20 something. They come to me, I tell them the story of their dad. Yani niwaambie tu peupe. I don't know if your mother was blind.
I think for me, what I can say, I agree with the sentiments of, I think I talked about it on TikTok, and it did not get a lot of traction because not a lot of single moms will agree with that. Irregardless of how that person hurt you, irregardless of who they are, don't taint that the other parent to the child. Let the child discover for themselves. And we underestimate children because they'll know who's the parent who's given their all.
Yeah.
Even when you allow them to have a relationship with this other person who's not here. And so to answer your question of when, I think we are always having difficult conversations. Always. Even from maybe you shouted the previous night and your child did not like it. In the morning, they'll wake up and tell you, Mommy, I didn't like how you talked to me. That's when you start creating the avenue for difficult conversations. The reason we were having a difficult time talking to our parents is because even in these instances of hapa na pale, they were not receptive to feedback that we were giving them. When you tell them, Mom, jana sikupenda vile uliniambia hivi. Unaniambia kama you're talking back to me. So imagine the hard stuff. When will your child ever come to you with the hard stuff? If this small stuff you're already causing big issues around it. So it's in the simple. Your child, you can only have difficult conversations if it starts from the simple things. Are you taking accountability for how you handled dealing with them when you're frustrated? Because you're human. Sometimes atakuomba pesa utakata juu money is short and there's nothing you can do about it. But if they come and they express their displeasure, you're always willing to listen. So when it comes to difficult conversations like, who is my dad? My daughter has asked me, we've sat down, Mom, watoto wengine wanakuja home, wanakuja shule, they have 2 parents. How come mimi niko tu na wewe na akina shosho? Because I still stay with my parents just for the sake of community. So I am honest and I tell her also with the level where the child is at. Because if you start saying, this is what happened, and you're putting it in complex terms, you're giving the child so much burden that they can't process. So as simple as your dad at the time was not ready to be a dad, and honestly I can't answer for him why he is not here. So if ever there's an opportunity and itajileta ya kuweza kuongea na yeye, you can ask him those questions.
I think you mentioned something about community, and I like if there's an argument between me and you and it's still painful on my bed, but then you're living with your community, your parents, your grandparents, or auntie, someone from there, you can give them the authority to talk about it, but in a very polite way to the child, so that the child understands, but it doesn't affect your opinion of what the situation is. So like for you, you're able to talk to them objectively with the aim of passing a message, but if you're not able to,
then you tell Olive about the situation. I get you.
You tell Olive like, hey, Nani aliuliza kuhusu niende umuongeleshe sasa to understand.
Like sasa the friend you're talking about, she's the one who can, the friend can give her the mandate to let auntie tell you what happened, because you're not the one who was jaded by
you
the
won't
guy.
Feel,
you can be objective about telling her about the child.
Oh, that's a very good.
I love that.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
There's the last question. Wait, is it a last question? It's a last point. Yes, the one you mentioned. I didn't know what to call it, so here I wrote romance between parents. Kids of opposite sex. Kids of the opposite sex. So there has been what did you call it? Parental
incest or something.
Emotional incest. So of course it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt that I've seen it mostly with mothers and sons. I don't know if it's the same thing for fathers who are overprotective about their daughters. Mothers with sons are generally drawn. Hey, how do I explain this? Their sons are more than their sons. Yes. It's almost as if they're husbands. And even in the African setup, some African communities, we consider our firstborn son our husband or like the father of the home. And you see, this is where the animosity between mother-in-laws and wives of sons comes in. Because it's just like, you'll never be good enough. You don't do this for him. He needs... And this is where also the problem of men looking for their mothers when they're dating comes in. Because the bond they have between them and their mother, they do not know it. Because me, I found it's very new to me. I found it on TikTok last year in November. I saw this explains the science behind that, but I was just like... Do you guys realize, do you now realize, now that we have information, do you realize that maybe the connection I have with my son or my daughter
is inappropriate?
It's not inappropriate.
It's boundaries.
Yes, it's crossing boundaries where they're not allowed to be a human entity who exists by themselves. They are not independent. They are an extension of you.
Right. Because that's what emotional incest is.
Yes.
Basically, and maybe to explain the background of where it comes from, you'll find during the boomer and Gen X generation, women were getting married for convenience. They couldn't own land. They couldn't. There was dependence on a man. So whether you wanted it or not, you had to just be under
fun fact,
wing.
that's why we used to take up men's names because you had to belong to someone's property. Right. So when you move from your father, now you belong to your husband.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so as a result of that, utapata, not a lot of marriages were based off of love. It was more for convenience. I want to start a family. I'm looking for protection and provision. Let's come in. Let's do this thing. So you find over the years, you find the generation of our moms, they were courted well. They were courted well. He'd come to the home, aseme hizo uongo zote.
Because men had to prove they have the capacity
to the fathers. So women are sold this idea, and then you realize from a young age they were also being raised to be wives, not women.
True.
So you get into this marriage with a certain level of expectation that the husband is going to fulfill. Yeah, anakuja anasema pesa ndio hii, you have the children, raise them. So you find so many women, the emotional aspect was not being catered for. They were not being seen by their husbands. Husband akisha leta tu unga, focus yake iko place ingine. As long as he's getting his regular sex 3 times a week, me, I'm good. Yeah. I'll go out with my boys. I'll go for my emotional connection with the klande uko inje.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, so many of our mothers grew up without having this aspect of love from the dads, from their husbands. And so it became something that now they're looking for in their sons. So as the son is sort of filling up the gap, that the husband was not able to. So it's not only in single moms, even in married mothers, it's happening. We see
it's actually mothers with husbands who are still there.
So you find from a young age the son is given preferential treatment. He's treated better than his sisters. Or your brother has come from somewhere and mnamwekea chakula. And so when the son starts gaining a level of independence, the boundaries start getting crossed. Now the mom starts crossing boundaries that are supposed to be there. Oh, what time are you coming back? I want you to do this for me. There's a level of, it's more like this person is her boyfriend and not her son. And so when another woman comes to mark the territory, she feels threatened. And so the son is left there wondering, where do my loyalties lie?
But then over time, isn't that also considered, what is it called, grooming? Because then there's incidences where the son reciprocates this. And you find that the son will choose their mother over their wife. The son will choose... The mother will cross lines. You can see this one you are not supposed to do, but they'll still pick their mother's side. Sometimes the son just can't find the perfect fit. There's no woman enough for me. And when you look deeply, you find that they're looking for someone who can do for them the things that the mother was doing for them, which is almost impossible if you're looking for a young girlfriend who doesn't even have the capacity to take care of you like that. If your mother was buying you food, was washing you, how do you want me to match up 2 years of that?
I feel like you're complaining about something also. It's personal. It's very personal on you.
It's meeting home.
You should send the link to someone.
Yeah, but in take a podcast on
this section. Hey.
I feel like grooming. The family part is taken out. Grooming happens with people who don't share relations.
Oh, okay.
The emotional incest, now when it gets to a point where the son is reciprocating, now it becomes a codependent relationship between the mom and the son. And that's why you find the son becomes so confused, because he doesn't want to disappoint his mom by telling him I'm setting boundaries, because also the mom starts emotionally blackmailing him. After everything I did for you, you want your girlfriend to come first. And the son doesn't know what to do because he doesn't want to let down his mom. And something else about these relationships, it creates a people pleaser. This boy is such a people pleaser to his mom, because that's where he gets his identity from. So when the mom when he starts taking his loyalties elsewhere to another girlfriend, he's not giving his mom the attention that she getting.
Requires,
and she cuts off supply. And she starts emotionally blackmailing him. And so he's left wondering, okay, who do I pick? Mom has been doing all these things for me. I don't want to lose that. There's something I'm gaining from this. But at the end of the day, she's not giving me what my girlfriend is giving me. And so that's why it's important to ensure your needs are being met elsewhere. Your children are not meeting
They're
your
not
needs.
your...
A lot of parents give birth to children so that their children can meet their needs.
That's one of the biggest reasons. You see, when I follow the child free page, and when people are asked, why do you have a child? Why do you have a child? Usually the reason is very... I would call it selfish. It's usually, so I have someone to take care of me. So I have someone who can love me unconditionally. So I have someone who I can care for, someone who can keep me on toes. And there's someone who once told me, it's now high time that you had a child so that you had something to ground you. They felt like my life is a bit too much on the edge.
What would be a logical reason to have a child, though? I don't know.
I think just wanting.
Yeah, it's like a need. Eh?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a need, just wanting to have a child. No, not because there's a reason.
No, it's an emotional reason.
Oh, yeah. Like the way someone would say, I feel like I want to have a child now.
But I feel like you can't take the selfishness of human nature. Like, we want to be so selfless, but fear too, there's a way we'll always be selfish.
Yeah.
Even when you're trying to be a healthy parent, there's just as even the reason you want to have kids. I want to heal the inner child in me. I want to raise someone
someone like me.
Yes, or I want to raise human beings who are, better people in the society. There's always going to be a reason, and you can't take the you out of it.
There's the one where you just want to be a mother, or you just want to be a father.
Way is you want a retirement package, like you just have
which is very problematic.
Because let's not start even talking about black tax.
Black tax. It's chomi.
Right.
Anyway, if given the chance, would you rather have this is difficult asking to people who already have children, but would you rather have a son or a daughter set the way life is set right now?
I have both. I can have both. I have 2 boys. I don't mind. They come wherever they come, but they're all fun. The growth process is the same for them. The challenges are different, but you can't determine who comes, but it's still fun. Right. It's a growth process that is fun for me to watch.
I feel like that's why I give props to every millennial parent I know, because that is growth. For our parents, there was a preference because of one thing or the other. The ones who wanted to have boys because boys were more secure, you'd have an heir, you'd have someone to take care of your property. For girls, what I saw a lot of times, people who wanted to have girls is so they had an extension of themselves, someone they could doll up, someone they could groom, someone they could. So just hearing that right now a child is a child, I think is a beautiful thing.
I think to answer the same question for me, I already have a daughter. I don't know what having a son would be, but the same way I've said children should be raised the same. That's how the same values I'm instilling in my daughter is the same values I instill in my son. And for me, I feel like the benefit is getting to experience them as a human. Their uniqueness, their quirks, her weaknesses, her strengths. Those are things that you won't meet in another individual that I'm just happy to experience. Yeah, and I feel like if more parents focused on just experiencing their children and not trying to manufacture them into these robots who are just
be like your father, be like something.
Then I feel like we'd have a better society.
But I think in about 10-20 years, I feel like we'll be living in a way healthier society, considering looking at Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I feel they'll have their own problems. Of course, there's problems with every generation, but I feel like in 10-20 years, we'll be living in a more wholesome society in some way or the other.
I'm not sure. I've just been itching to say this, but you do know Gen Z are having children.
Oh, Gen Z, by the way, already.
Gen Z starts at 97.
97, yes.
And ends at 202.
202.
Oh, see,
that would make me a Gen Z parent.
Oh,
now you're a Gen Z.
Yeah, I was born in 97.
You're a Gen Z parent.
Yes.
You're actually in the middle of You're not even like first generation.
Do they call it
Zillennials? The confused ones.
Yeah, so sometimes I feel like I don't fit in completely with the
millennials
thing, and they also don't fit in with the millennials.
Yeah, confused element in between there.
Our confused elements.
You'll figure it. But millennials have turned out to be the most wholesome generation because they've had the both of two worlds. They used a phone booth and they've used a smartphone. So, I guess when you're in a transitionary stage, if you're part of that generation, I guess you'll do great things. Yeah,
I think it's a learning process. Like you learn from what they did wrong and then you try and make it better.
Yeah. Congratulations to all parents. Wasai, Aki, you people are doing the most. I know I can't be a parent because I know I don't have the emotional capacity to balance it out, to be able to heal from my traumas and raise a healthy human. Yeah. So if someone is doing it, imagine give them their flowers. Just give them their flowers.
What I've learned about women is never to ask them, when are you giving birth? It's a very emotional response.
It is.
There might be a biological reason or a timing reason, just a myriad of things. But for men, you never cause as much as you want. It's very different.
And also, we don't know why. Even if you ask me why I don't want to have children, I think there's so many reasons, but I can't point out to one and tell you this is why. I feel like every other year I've had a different reason, and it's just cumulative. So
I don't think you can ever be ready, but when it comes, you just prepare yourself. Yeah, the first one is where you're never ready, but the others you can try and plan. Because it's
try and plan.
You can try. It's again, as I was saying before you started, the decision to have a child ultimately remains on the woman.
Oh, I was to ask.
Yes.
If the woman wants a child and you don't want a child,
we will want sex. You are the one to determine when you want to give birth.
This is another conversation.
I think both individuals need, there's a difference between having the child and wanting to be a parent. Yeah. I find so many men want children, but the task of being a dad is something entirely different. And that's why you'd find deadbeats hapa inje bragging, hey, mbegu yangu iko huko. Because they know, like, I mean, I don't hold any, is it called? Any spite to my baby daddy, because I was 17. There was no emotion to it.
And how old was he?
He was way older.
Oh,
okay. Really?
Yes, he was way older. There was no emotion to it, and like single moms who in a relationship, you think you love each other, and then for me it was the teenage curiosity. Uko na ka boyfriend, because everyone has a boyfriend. Then it happens. So I never really said, you've never even processed, Then again, the support I got from my family has never even allowed me to say, sasa ikiki mtu.
So the community is really strong.
It's beautiful.
But the next one, the second child, you determine it.
I determine, but
when
then
you want, not being a parent is something else. You're already a parent.
For sure.
Yeah, you already understood it, you've tackled it.
Yeah.
But when you want the child, it's you who determines, for sure.
That's true. When I want the child, I determine, but I also have to be on board with have to be with someone who wants to be on board of becoming a parent. Now, when I decide to make him a parent, is entirely dependent on
me. Yours is from a logical point of view. The financial side, if Olive doesn't want to work anymore and thinks Jones can take care of the child, then you just have a child with me and everything is sorted. Yours is the best way to think about it. The logical way, it's good. But for her, she'll be like, we're already doing it, so let me just get a child. So there are two situations. Yours is the ideal one. We'll talk about it, we'll do it, and we'll get one plan next year. It'll be aligned with where you will be at in your life and where I'll be at.
Right.
And then there's a bit where I want to be lazy. Nataka kuwa lazy. Or even for men, it'll be the bit where this girl is still running away from me, so let me give her a child so that they're always with me.
Where? Huh?
What?
Okay, so with your first with your first point, why I was saying it's a whole podcast is because I had a friend who I was arguing with, and I told he kept on telling me that men are victims of being deadbeats because it's the woman who decides whether or not they'll have a child. So a girl can walk into a club, mark you, and mark that you're sleeping with them tonight, and they'll leave with your seed. And I was just like, even you, if you know in your heart of hearts you don't want a child, no matter how drunk you are, you know how to put on a condom. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter.
Those things don't slip on.
No.
It's like even wearing medical gloves.
As someone who drinks, I know. If I get to a particular level, it doesn't matter how drunk I am. Me, I know there's one thing I usually do. I must sleep in my bed. It doesn't matter if I'll crawl to that bed. So I don't understand why your subconscious doesn't register that I don't want a child. And anything you do that night should be geared towards not living here with a child.
Actions. Like you will have sex and the outcome is you will come in the process.
Or you should have come in a condom.
Yeah, but the process of wearing it, even you, if I tell you to put on a glove, if there's a
tukupate children's coat, please. Wacha kutusumbua.
That's a whole victim, by the way.
You can't say it's a victim.
Yeah, I'll go back to sex ed.
Yeah.
If we tell these boys and girls from teenage years, like we are having honest conversations, that when you start having sex, you're responsible for the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
Let's not say that it won't happen, that mistake children won't be there.
Yeah.
But a lot people would be more cautious and then be more self-control when it comes to even this sex. Because is it really a must?
There is control.
Because no one wants to have a child with a deadbeat. No woman usually wants to have a child with someone who will not be there to take care of the child, even if it was for financial reasons. You don't want to be required. No man as well would want to be running in court every other week. Unaambiwa toa pesa. Which job are you working now? Get money for child support. No one wants both these two situations. So what Akinyi is saying is that we are able to have these open conversations, and you're able to understand that when you have sex, you get children. When you get children, this and this happens, and this is your responsibility.
That is a logical situation. But when you put alcohol in it,
there
are always levels of alcohol. There's a bit where you're just having it for conversational purposes. Then there's a bit where you start banging tables. It becomes very tipsy. Level 3 is when you can't function properly and you just black out. That level 3
then
is
you should have not functioned in bed.
I want to bring in another heavy angle to it.
Yeah.
That we need to stop forcing people to have kids as a consequence to their actions and allow for abortion to be a thing. Because if that mistake has already happened, you're drunk, you didn't...
But there should be consent that I as a man didn't want this child before it was given birth, so you should release that, take care of him yourself, so that you don't follow me 5 years later.
That should also be in place.
The society should not shame women for coming to the decision that I'm also not ready to keep this child. Because what is happening in society is women are being told, hey, si ulifungua miguu ukafanya hivi.
Kwanza nurses.
Yeah, so you do. So like, I've had sex with this person, imepatikana, I'm pregnant. When I come with the news home, I'm told, now you have to bear the consequences. So many children are being given birth to because that it was a consequence. Not because these two parents sat down and said, okay, finally I'm ready, emotionally, mentally, maybe financially you'll probably never be ready to be a parent. But I feel like I have the capacity to always provide for this individual. I feel like that also needs to be another conversation on it.
Let's normalize. I saw even a TikTok the other day emphasizing, let's normalize when a friend calls you and tells you they are pregnant. Normalize asking, are we happy? Or are we sad? Are we going to the clinic? So you need to, like, me, that's a question I've asked people for so long. When you tell me you're pregnant, I'm just like, tunaenda clinic ama you're keeping it? That's a very logical question for me, because I understand parenting is a lifelong commitment. Right. So I'm sorry that I might be coming from a very logical point of view as a non-parent, but just to know, if you're my friend and you ever call me, the first question is, are we celebrating or are we looking for options out?
It is. And I feel like people should not be shamed into parenting.
But you see, now you are at the wrong age right now. Most of these things happen between 20 and 25, 28.
Oh, the questions were coming when we were in campus.
When we were younger. Right now, we are more of a logical point of view. There's growth in both of us, all the three of us. But then if it was at 24, 25, the mindset is totally different.
No, but even then, me, I think I've always been a pro-choice my whole life. Yeah. Even when I didn't know I didn't want to have kids.
Depends on
I just knew there must be an option of sorts. Like, you can't be doomed to something you didn't plan for. And at the end, that's your punishment. Why?
It depends with church, because in church you're told not to kill, and that's the one longest lesson everyone has ever been taught.
But for church, I've said that's a conversation on its own, because that's why even the church was not a place for me to stay in, because these were all thoughts I had, and I thought they were logical. But in the church, you were told
you can't ask questions.
It's a bold point for you to say, I don't want to do church on this. I can read the Bible on my own. Yeah, that's good.
It is what it is, guys. But thank you for coming. That brings us to the end of our conversation as parenting. It was parenting boys versus girls, but I guess it just covered parenting, yes, in general. And it was very wholesome. Thank you to Akinyi. Thank you to Jones for coming. Papa Jones. Are you calling Papa Jones?
Yes. At some point, yes. And mine is in the ID. Not the Papa.
You're standing on the stage right now.
Actually, my son calls me Papa Jones. He laughs so out loud.
Your motif. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. That brings us to the end of another episode of the In All Honesty podcast. My fabulous name is OLAVEORAWO, and until next week, bye.
Bye.
Next on the In All Honesty podcast.
Loss is very inevitable. In life, we will lose our loved ones. Love comes, love goes, and so do people. They come and they go. But then dealing with loss is something that there's not a manual to it. Like we were talking about parenting last week. There's not a manual to it. There's no way to handle loss. Grieving is so different for different people, and that's what we'll be talking about this coming episode. What is grief? What does grief look like? How do different people handle grief? What is your experience with grief? Who did you lose, and how did that affect you? What are the long-term life changes that you've had to make from having lost someone that you loved? So we'll be talking about grief next week, and of course we'll have 2 more beautiful guests in studio, maybe even more, but we'll be discussing grief. And you can always tell me your experiences with grief. Right now the prompts will be going out on Wednesdays, so watch out for that. And basically your experiences with grief, you can reach out to me via DM at OLAVEORAWO, or send in your story on my email at olaveorawo@gmail.com. Bye.
I'm not where I want to be, but I'm in what was once a dream. So if I do some quick math, the future equals a dream come true. Since 1992, In All Honesty, a podcast by OLAVEORAWO.